I'm going to start with just quick introductions. Robert, I just met you, and this is Robert Sue, who's a Penn student. And where's your hometown? Michigan. So where in Michigan? Show us. Near Ann Arbor. Good. Okay. So, but you're obviously here in Philadelphia at one of the great Ivy League schools, Penn, and we're really glad to have you here, Robert. Zachary, which one is Zachary? Zachary, you have to switch with him because I've got you in this order. You got to follow and I didn't tell him this, so. Okay, so Zachary, and last name is pronounced Bodden? Great. Zachary Bodden is from Hands on Jacksonville, from their Youth Leadership Council, one of our lead agencies, and we're really glad to have you here, Zachary. Najiba. Okay, you get to move down one bar stool. And I want to make sure I pronounce your last name. Guti? Godi. Easy enough. Okay. And you're from the Hanover Youth Service Council. So we're really glad to have you here. All right. And Bryce. Now, the FCCLA people, you just don't miss them because, boy, do they know how to dress. So, Bryce Wheats. We do have the same tie on. Thank you. I got your memo this morning. Yes, I had to change. So I had a giraffe tie on, and I had to take it off. But anyway, Bryce is from Minnesota FCCLA and one of our great partners. And FCCLA does amazing stuff in engaging young people and positioning them as assets and resources while they're young. How old were you when you first joined FCCLA?
6th grade.
6th grade. How old are you in 6th grade? 12? So you've been wearing the red jacket for a while. It's good. All right. Mubarak Lawrence. Hey, Mubarak. He is from an organization locally, right? Rising Suns, here in Philadelphia. So you're our local talent. Okay, cool. We like local talent. I'm glad to have you here, Mubarak. And last but not least is Ryan Lennon, who is from the Institute for Global Education and Service Learning. And Ryan, I think you're like the bookend here. Robert's on the other end. You're on this end, and you're kind of local, right? Where do you live? Levittown, Pennsylvania. We all not too far from here. And I think you're probably maybe the youngest member of the panel. How old are you? 15. Okay. Is that anybody younger than 15? Okay. Anybody older than 15? Yeah. Anybody in the audience older than 15? No. Okay. Cool. All right. So you guys you know enough about YSA. You know enough about youth changing the world. It's kind of a radical idea. People think I'm slightly crazy because I think young people ought to change the world. And yet that's the only thing that ever has. You know, adults don't change the world, it's young people. All the great social movements, all the great changes that we've seen in society always have an incredible youth component to them, if not in partnership with adults, then certainly led by young people. How crazy is that idea from your perspective, and are you willing to take the problems of the world on your shoulders? I guess that's the real question. Mubarak, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to just sort of pop around a little bit. Yeah, I think if you just see. Yeah, the 15-year-old will tell you how to do it.
Well, thank you again for having me come out. I think a lot of problems in our society today stems from the lack of youth involvement and the lack of opportunities that exist for the youth. I myself, starting Rising Suns, our target was to build professional and personal development in youth while building their communities through service. So it's also providing that aspect of giving back to your community because you take ownership of your community. So if this is a curriculum or a model that we facilitate for youth and allow them to build their professional and personal development skills, we can also give back to our community and actually, be the front runners and the frontiers of where our communities go after that.
Najiba, too big a weight on your shoulders? Are you willing to take it on?
I don't think it's too big a weight. I think it's great that kids like me and all of us up here are given the opportunity to be involved in something so big and powerful. And it's just an incredible honor to be able to be a part of this. And I feel like I'm serving my community. And even though I'm starting small in my small community, I feel like we're able to branch off and do something bigger by being a part of something like this.
That's great. Ryan, You willing to take it on? You're 15. You're the youngest. You willing to take this on? The problems of the world? No, you're ready to. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. Huh? You're gonna take on the problems of your community. Well, I think those are the problems of the world. So I think you're gonna be right there. You're gonna be right there. Robert.
I'm definitely willing to take this on, and coming from like a university perspective, what is great is that there are lots of passionate people, and sometimes you feel alone in what you're doing as a young person, but the great thing about being in college is that there's so many people willing to help you. Your university is willing to back you up with professors, other classmates who will join your cause, and just resources and connections that will get you going. So I'm definitely ready to take this on.
Great. Bryce.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity. I'm definitely willing to take it on. And like you said earlier, I think it really starts within your own community, and you got to find that passion, and that's where it builds from.
And you've been doing this since you were 12 anyway, so you're kind of used to taking it on. Zachary?
I think that as long as we have a burning passion for what we really want to be doing, then we can take it on. And if we have the passion to fuel it in our community, then if we can fix every community, then we can fix the world. So yes, I am ready to take this on.
That's great. That's great. So we're going to let you guys ask each other some questions, because I think those are going to be tougher questions than I might ask. So why don't you, Bryce, why don't you start? You've got a microphone there.
All right, Mubarak, what started your inspiration with youth service learning and getting the Sons of Philadelphia together?
Well, originally I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I actually earned a scholarship through the A Better Chance program to go off to Radnor High School. So here it is, I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and I go off to the suburbs, which school was predominantly white. I was in a new environment, and I saw all of the resources and how the community was, nurtured the students, and pretty much education as a general was the lead runner of the community. So now taking that mindset, I ended up going to college, and mind you, no one in my family had went to college. I had not known anyone who went to college, so it was just uncharted territory for me. So here I am, all these new experiences, and I'm taking them on alone. So I was very open-minded, and I really had not known before, and curiosity kept me going. So now that I'm at college, I meet a couple of my couple friends. Actually, it was the first time I had a mentor, and it was a near-peer mentor. This is a guy who's only 1 year older than me, and he's a male. Growing up in my community, I really didn't have male role models. So these are problems I suffer from. So the reason we started Rising Sons is because we realized this is a problem that is reoccurring for young men in urban communities as well as all youth. They don't have those male figures, as well as young ladies as well. Their fathers aren't at home. And being in college, there was no real outlet for me to get involved in the community until we started this program, and we started with feeding the homeless, running toy and clothes drives for homeless children. So this was like, all right, we can do something with the Rising Sons. And then next thing you know, I did City Year. Some of you may be familiar with City Year, but I was a mentor and tutor in schools, and I actually worked hands-on with kids that were suffering from these problems in the education system, which was kind of failing them. And these problems were very prevalent, and I just really wanted Rising Sons to go into these communities, empower the youth to use the resources that are available for them, and also create resources with the college students that we are able to build partnerships with, and bringing them back in the community and creating a cycle of resources for all of these children.
I'm sure Cory Booker is proud of you there. All right, who are you going to ask?
Okay. So Bryce, we had a brief talk. You personally, service learning is something a big part of what you do. How has service learning helped you, and what are some of the ways you see it helping the youth in the future?
Well, service learning is something I've started off when I was very little, 6th grade. We started off with projects called Illustrate Talks, where it wasn't service learning per se, but it taught us to find the inspiration that we have and go after the passion of something we want to fix. And then older students mentored us into their service learning projects that they presented to the judges, and that just kind of built my passion for that. And then from that, I went and worked with elementary students, and working with them just made a huge impact on my life, and that made me see the big difference that I may be only a junior in high school, but I can still make an impact on rooting from the younger kids, the kindergartners, the first grades, and starting with our problems from there.
It's a great dynamic, that cascading service, near peer. I mean, there's just so many of us in the room are using it, and it's great to hear somebody really reinforce the power of that, particularly from your age group. Okay, who are you going to ask? Sorry. Okay, so Zach, why don't you ask somebody a question?
Najiba, what have you learned at this conference, and how do you think you can be able to implement it when you get back to your community?
I've learned so much being here at this conference. I think the main thing that I found out is that service, it's not just you're like dedicating your time in a few hours volunteering somewhere, but it's a learning process. And all this service learning, I'm really excited to take back to my school and all the activities I'm involved with so that I can help lead others. Because even though I'm a youth, I do serve over other youth who are younger than me. And I feel like all of this stuff I'm able to take back, like the learning process and specific steps to implementing projects or helping others or getting other people involved and stuff like that.
Never apologize for being a youth. Even though I'm a youth? No, because I'm a youth, I've got power.
Youth.
Service is power. Right? Okay, who are you going to ask?
I'm going to ask Ryan. We talked earlier about how you got involved, but what sparked your passion for this, and how did you become involved in service learning?
Service learning is something that's passed through my family. All my cousins, they were all Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and they all did those big projects for the Eagle badges. And whenever they had a project, they would always bring it to the family, and the family would always be right there to support them. And then it's been passed down through all my cousins, and now it's up to me. And I wanted to take this farther. And even though I'm not a Boy Scout, I worked with my aunt, and she has the nonprofit, and we just started doing every single community project we could. We saw needs in hospitals with cancer, and we saw needs in the community, and there was a family in the neighborhood who had a juvenile blindness, and they started a foundation for it. So then we started working with them, and we organized different events, and it's kind of just sprawled into this huge thing. And instead of just doing the one thing that was already established, we're just creating new events for all different types of diseases and different problems that we find in our community that we need to address.
Ryan, I hate to break it to you. You've taken on the problems of the world. Who are you going to ask?
I'd like to ask Robert. I was wondering how easy it is, or how you go through college and bring up service learning projects, how easy it is for you to involve people in school about college, or through your college about projects, what kind of steps you have to go through to try and get more people involved in these events.
Well, the good thing about college is that you have a very large pool of people to pick from, so you have a lot of different passions that you can harness, but at the same time, though, since there's so many people don't have the time to really give you their attention. So for me, I haven't actually started any service projects yet at Penn, but I'm getting there. But what helps a lot is to find a community service hub on campus. So for example, at Penn we have something called the Civic House, and they're dedicated primarily to community service and service learning. So if you can find a common place where people who are like-minded come together, that's a great way to get people involved. And then also there are a lot of student organizations on campus too that deal with this issue. So there's AIDS awareness, there's the Student Health Advisory Board, and these are just organizations of people with the same goal in mind. So even though college, even though there are a ton of people in college, there are a lot of different groups that you can target via organizations or via your professors or your classes.
That's great, and a great resource for all of us to tap into. If you've got a college or a university, a community college in your neighborhood, go see them. These centers exist at almost every school in America now, and at 26 universities in Russia. But these hubs on campus are really powerful, and they're dying to get involved in the community. They want to build bridges between those campuses and those schools. And if you can get their kids up on the campus, your kids up on their campus, show them what a school looks like. Susan has this great picture of kids out in Washington who are actually coming, they're 8th graders, and they're actually putting on lab coats and getting on a university campus. Some of them have never even dreamed of going to college, but now they're all thinking about it because they see how cool college really is. So, all right, Robert, question.
So Zach, I wanted to know, like, what have been the biggest obstacles that you have faced when trying to implement your service learning projects?
I think one of the major things is money and funding and things like that. Money's tight. It's hard to get funds, and we don't get any state money. So we have to fundraise for everything. We have to apply for grants. Finding partnerships can be tough a lot of times, and that's a lot of times how adults can come in and really help the youth, because adults have the connections that a lot of times youth don't have to corporations and communication systems within your community. So that's probably the biggest, I think that's the hardest part of this whole thing, and that's a big obstacle to get over, is funding and money issues.
Great. And you get to ask Najiba the last question.
Okay. I already asked a question.
Oh, did you get asked
Yeah.
a question? Sorry. I apologize. Okay, good. So now we're going to actually turn it over to you guys to ask the audience questions. So that's going to put a little pressure on the adults in the room. I will give you this. So we've got 3 microphones, and we're gonna wander around, and we'll just pass this.
We'll pass this.
So
Okay.
go ahead.
You have a question?
No.
Anyone have a question?
If somebody want to ask a question.
I'm wondering, what's the biggest or most important thing you guys have learned from us, the youth?
Take the lead. Let you run with it. That's it.
Take the lead. Run with it.
Yes, let you be in charge. Let you own the project.
Love that. Got another one here.
I think it's just following your passion. I think that, for me, especially when I did service as a youth and looking at the youth that are doing service, it's so much easier to just be like, I'm really passionate about the environment, so I'm going to do something about it. And I feel like as you get older, you get, tied down to certain things. And
your willingness to put yourself out there and not be sheltered by adults saying no, and you just keep going and going and going. And just your creativity to even think that you can do what you're doing is the most impressive.
I have a question. I come from a community where we have very lack of parental involvement in children and their education. So my question is to parents and friends of parents. What's ways that we can get more parents involved? I see, some parents are involved, and they have they're friends of parents who aren't involved, but you don't see them having those conversations with people. Me being a youth, I want to connect with as many parents as possible because we need that parental support and parents to support students who want to do things like we're doing up here today. So what are your recommendations to getting more parents on board and actually start rebuilding that parent community?
I think one thing I could just suggest, one of the things that we've been trying is when we do Global Youth Service Day or the MLK Days of Service, is we invite those parents into a more informal environment. And then the other thing we've tried, we have really high poverty at our school, and the same issue with parent involvement, is we try and schedule things where we can provide food. And we find that when the family is looking for food, especially at the end of the month, we can get them in and get them involved because we're helping with their budgets, we're saving a little money on food, and that can make a big difference.
Lots of hands up, lots of hands. Over here? Yes.
One thing that I did, we haven't done yet, but we're thinking about doing, we work with at-risk kids as well, and it's very hard to get the parents in. But a lot of times those parents who you can't get in are ones who had trouble in school and are sort of afraid of school. So one way we thought of connecting with the parents is putting ownership on the kids, having them create a lesson that they're going to teach to their parents. And you know, if they know that their child is going to be doing something, you know, everybody wants to see their child succeed. So I think that will get them in the schools more because they've had bad experiences. They're afraid of school, just like a lot of our kids are.
Hi, my name is Leslie. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. One of the things that we did, we readdressed what rooms our parents have access to. We did a extreme makeover in the Parent Center. It's no longer called LSEO, it's the Parent Club. And they have a whole living room, kitchen setting. It was more friendly and inviting. We have about 50 parents that come every day. We also targeted the men. I'm in an African-centered school where we have a large male teaching population, which is rare in education. And the men have their men's club. So we have the Garveyite Men's Club. The principal, they may go bowling. They'll play basketball. They have Friday nights where they meet up, and it's more of a social group. What we found, we're dealing with young parents, and those parents still are the ones that like to go to the club. They like to socialize. So they don't see it as a parent meeting, even though they take care of the business for Title I under the parent organization, they have more of a social club. So our parent room is filled all the time now, where we used to couldn't get them even though they were coming to drop their kids off. Now they stay all day. Sometimes we have to tell them, you know, you got to calm it down because we are in school, but they have fun. They are friends, and they socialize outside of the regular school day.
Great. Where's the microphone? Yep.
One thing I've found is really important is to actually ask the parents personally. Don't just say, we got a volunteer list, would you please sign up? I go out and I call my parents, and I don't just send an email, or I live in a small community. I see them in the grocery store, and I ask them, would you do this? And write thank you notes. I cannot emphasize that enough, because they will go and tell another parent, I got the nicest thank you note from the teacher, or I got the nicest thank you note from the kids. And then it's just that being politeness thing instead of being very vague and can you just come help, and being very specific, what do you want that parent to do? Because sometimes they're scared you're going to ask them to get up in front of a lot of people and talk, and sometimes you just need them to make sure nobody goes out the back door of the gym. So you need to be very specific on what you need those parents to do.
Tremendous idea. Yes, this has stimulated a lot of answers. We got a lot of hands that still want to talk. Go ahead.
This is a approach that we're just trying out this year, but we have a head start. My company has a head start, and a lot of our parents of our students do not work. They're normally just dropping off their students and then going home and, you know, taking care of the household needs. And a lot of them don't have GEDs or, you know, need computer trainings, things along that line. So we have cubbies, and we put in our students' cubbies, you know, what's going on at LCAP. And we have like a listing of all the services that we have to offer in that same center as they're dropping off their child. So let's just say a student who is in school from 9 to 3. Well, the same school, while you're dropping your student off from 9 to 3, you could be working on your GED, visiting the computer lab, you know, using our resources, searching jobs, things like that. So, I mean, it's keeping them involved. We had 10 parents right now working on their GED. We just started it. So, I mean, it's bringing them in, keeping them there, like, you know, one place, one sound, yeah. So.
One of the biggest things, we also have a high poverty level. I'm from Alton, Illinois, which is 20 minutes out of St. Louis, and our poverty is about 60%. So we struggle too, but one of the biggest things that we are encouraged to do is build relationships to get the parents and the students invested in learning. We this year started transportation for our parents for when we have parent-teacher conferences. We make a lot of phone calls, and I also am a teacher that makes home visits. I also have a hotline at night. Students can call me from a certain time to a certain time for help with homework. That building relationships, I think, is the important key to our future. Because when I'm old and gray, it's you guys.
Yes.
I think this is an important leadership opportunity for you guys. We focus so much on teaching kids and teaching teenagers how to serve and how to love service. But there's a generation before us that wasn't necessarily taught that. So this is an opportunity for you guys to teach your parents to love service the way you do. Make it personal, you know? Work directly on making your parents love service the way you do. Invite them to come and serve with you. Don't just try to get them to do parent service projects that are sort of divorced from the ones you're working on, but invite them to come and serve with you. Make it a family activity. Talk about how important it is to you. And I mean, you know, it's frustrating. Sometimes it takes a while. I have always raved to my parents about how much I love doing service projects, and it wasn't until I was in my 20s that suddenly Mom starts asking me, you know, are there soup kitchens in our town? How do you get involved with those? Who do I contact? And that Dad starts popping up in the shadows of the service projects I'm leading with my kids. So it might take some time, but make it a personal initiative. Focus on your own parents. Spread the word to your friends that they need to focus on their own parents. And because they love you, they'll learn to love what you love.
Great advice. Microphone? Yes.
Well, not much to add, but just use your voice. Like, you sitting up there are all so impactful, and don't underestimate that. You know, you've had all of us on the edge of our seats listening to what you have to say. So just remember that at the end of the day, there's all the logistics in the world, and those are amazing, but use your voice and share what transformations you've been through from your experience.
For me, what I think of most is that you have to make it applicable to your parents. If I were to come to you all and say, oh my gosh, I need so much help with taxes. Look at you. None of you are excited. None of you are jumping out of your seat. Think of what would interest your parents on a personal level. Come to them as you would want them to come to you and ask, and find opportunities and ways that would interest them. If you know they're not able to come to your school at this time or to do these things, bring something to them. Bring a service project to them that you can do together that they would be interested in. You know, and engage them the way you would want to be engaged.
Somebody else want to ask a question?
So another issue I feel facing the service learning area is we might be able to have the programs where we have 4 or 5 students that they really feel passion and they want to lead this program, but then they have issues with how do we get the more youth from our area involved. Even if you're in a large area, it's how do you reach out to them other people, and you may have a youth or an adult or two that will help you with the project, but you also need to reach out for more youth to help and just to keep the project going and have enough people to actually serve an area of what you're doing. How do you guys think we can address that issue a little bit?
One of the things I would say that's really important that we always encourage our students to do is don't think of just your peers. Look down at the elementary school students and invest in 10 years from now, because at this moment, you have more sway with them than adults will ever have and than anybody else will ever have. So if you focus on those young students who are just forming their ideas about service, that's one way that it won't necessarily translate right now, but you're making serious investments for the future.
I can't believe, as one from my generation to your generation, that I'm suggesting this, but you all have so many greater ways of networking and connecting with each other than we ever did. And so to use social media to jazz it up in terms of whatever it is that you're trying to encourage people to be a part of, use Facebook, Twitter, and so on. You know, just to get the word out. You may attract people who would have never even thought about being involved in what you're so passionate about and want to see happen.
That's what I was going to say. Use your Facebook. You know, I've seen some Facebook friends groups that really is just pumping each other up. So use it for service learning examples, what I've learned here, what opportunities I've had. And then most people come to something because they were invited. And so if you invite your peers, your friends, some other people, if they're invited, then they are more likely to come. So it's just that invitation of, hey, come along, I'm doing something cool.
The ask, we talk about the ask. You know, it's always if you get asked, you know, you're likely to do something. Another question somebody wants to ask? Robert? Oh, sorry. One more.
I just say look for sticky people, people that want to spend time with people, and recruit them because they'll always bring people along with them. So look for those sticky people.
So I want to know, like, as an outsider to a new community, how do you integrate yourself effectively into the community to like facilitate service projects? But see, with my situation, I've been hesitant as of now to start any service projects in Philadelphia because I've only lived here for 2 months, so I'm still like an outsider, so I don't understand Philadelphia yet. You know, not to make it sound bad, but I haven't been here long enough to like know the people, know like the communities, know the issues here really well to feel like a part of Philadelphia. And one criticism that Penn students frequently get from the community is that we feel like we can come to a new community and just kind of put our stuff out there and say, this is what we're gonna do. But we don't take the time to understand, you know, who the people are, what the neighborhoods are like that. So that was kind of rambling, but does anyone like have any advice on how to kind of like immerse yourself into a new community and, you know, allow that to spur change?
Hook yourself to a rising star. Find the best area in your area, community service organization that's doing something. Join them, learn about them, and then plan a project on your own.
I was just going to say, it's a little like meeting a new person. You establish common ground. You find out what you do have in common, because we all have something in common. There's some common ground that you can find. So, you know, find out if, you know, if there's interest in the college culture that you share, and just try to do it that way, just like meeting a new person.
There's likely someone on your campus that already is doing things, and it would be, if it's possible, to build on what's already being done from your campus and expand it. So maybe doing some exploring on campus, and then not just taking what they say, but going and actually meeting the partner and asking your own questions and trying to see how you could bring some new passion to whatever. There's probably a range of things that you might be able to pick from that would be building on things.
Just real quick, I oversee AmeriCorps programs in Delaware, and during our orientation, because we've got, like you, such bright, excited, passionate young people that have so many ideas and are ready to change everything, we give them one rule when they first get there. Ask questions, don't make suggestions. You know, you spend some time and get to know the community, give them time to get to know you. And it's part of it's earning some credibility. And then as you make your observations and pursue different projects, people will be happy to join you.
I would say to build off of that, because we've engaged AmeriCorps members and we haven't formalized that, but I really like that, with saying ask questions and get yourself involved. I mean, find a local person or a group of local people that you can just say, you know, tell me about your city. What do you love about it? What are the things that you feel make Philadelphia what it is? You know, just once they get to know you and you build that rapport with them, they're gonna see how amazing you are, and they're gonna start to ask you for your ideas. So I would say just get to know some locals and see what they think.
I can actually speak pretty personally to that. I flew across the country a year and a half ago for an AmeriCorps term to a place that I had no connections whatsoever. And I agree that there's a need to just immerse yourself and learn as much as you can. I found personally that just diving in and, you know, having my hands in every random community project that I could and going to all the community meetings, you know, the best way to learn this stuff is by doing it, I think, in the end, especially in a new community. And so having an open mind and listening to people as they say, well, this isn't going to work because of this reason, you know, in our community, but really just learn on the go, like jump in, like do it. That's what I would say.
So, Robert, you have been a tremendous asset to Youth Service America and helped us, and then now it's our turn to help you. We have connections and contacts in high schools and in grade schools in Philadelphia, and I think it would be terrific for us to introduce you to them, because there's nothing more powerful than a college student who's interested in a high school student, because you can pave the way for them. And what a great opportunity for you then to share with some of your college buddies, hey, I got my foot in the door at this school.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
One of the things that I have found
in the high school that I am working in and in the college that I am working in, the Centers for Social Justice and Civic Leadership have a tremendous amount of opportunities for students to learn about what's going on in the area. Doing service fairs or having service fairs set up by various groups. Usually the Panhellenic Council will have something that is set up because they are very much dedicated to service to the community. You can hook up with that group in order to find out information or go to your own campus outreach. There is a development officer on every campus that does campus outreach that allows for you to get involved and to find out some information about what's going on. If you really want to engage people, then maybe one of the things would be to set up a service fair so that people can actually hear from the practitioners the kinds of needs that they have, and from that particular aspect you're able to determine some of the things that you and friends together could set up in order to meet those particular needs.
How you doing? What I basically say is that you need to try to get together with home-based groups. There's a lot of them here in Philadelphia. Education Works, which I work for one of them. We always looking for college students to come in to help us with our high school students and plus our elementary and middle school students. Also is Youth Build and also City Year. They're still looking for people to help them out through this because all of us are in schools trying to motivate the kids to go to college. And a lot of the kids that we're with never really think about going to college. And have a college student come to their school to inspire them will also help you. And also we do a lot of community-based projects that you can probably get involved with that'll help you out with your community.
I have to recruit volunteers and funds all the time. That is my job. And when I'm new to an area, it works really well in a smaller town. I went to lunch in all kinds of different restaurants in town, and I looked for that Rotary, Lions Club, Kiwanis sticker in the window. And so if they had lunch there, but either before their meeting or after their meeting, I introduced myself to them and told them what I did and offered to be a speaker for them to talk about what we do. And that's where I've gotten a lot of volunteers and a lot of funding.
Just wanted to remind everybody that there are volunteer centers in a lot of your areas all day long, every day. We hear from people who have opportunities, from organizations who have opportunities. Volunteer centers are in the know as far as who the nonprofits are in your area. They can link you, they can help you set up an expo, but keep in mind you have partners in the room, and we'd love to work with you.
This is advice that I typically give all of my kids that are going into college, whether it's service related or not. But look at becoming a member of the community, not just a member of the campus community, but a member of the community. You know, read your local newspapers. If they're independent papers, read those. Listen to local radio, you know, follow local blogs. Find a coffee shop where people hang out and talk to each other, and hang out there, plant yourself there, make some friends with people that are outside of campus world, that aren't college people. But yeah, just become part of Philadelphia. Fall in love with it. You know, do your best to make yourself, you know, like a natural born Philadelphian. Get excited about your community and invest yourself in it. And not only will you find service opportunities where you least expect them, but you'll have more fun in your time here in college.
It's all about that brotherly love and sisterly affection. Okay, last question, Ryan.
People like say that the younger that you're exposed to service learning, the more like willing you are to do it, and more involved you are. And like today and on Monday, many people said that they were doing service projects in their high schools and through high school groups in college. And I didn't hear many about middle school or even some elementary. And my yak over there. Like we all started out when we were in middle school, and some of us even when we were in elementary school. And like that's why I think we're all so like involved in this. And I feel like in my elementary school that I went to, they're not as involved in the service learning anymore, and they're kind of pushing it out of the education, and they're not doing as much service. And I was wondering like what your ideas were to try and bring that back into the elementary and middle schools.
Great question. Yes, got somebody over here, somebody over here.
Well, I'm a middle school teacher, but I have my son sitting next to me. And I told my middle school, because I do honor society, to go out and trick or treat for canned foods. And he started it in 3rd grade. And that was, he said he got more candy than anybody else, but he also got canned foods. So that would be something really easy to implement in or elementary school.
I guess in addition to finding projects, like she said, that were relevant or that would be easy to implement, getting the teachers on board, getting the people in college who are being trained to be professional teachers. A lot of people at my college, personally, I'm in the education department, and I've met them, and getting them started and getting them interested when they go out to the schools for their practicing. If you can get them on board with service learning and really target them, I guess that would be our job, for the service learning groups on campus to target them and talk to them about it and get them interested in it, so that they can bring that to their schools whenever they become teachers. I feel like that would be a really good way to get that in the K through 12 schools as well.
I would encourage posing a question to the adults in the school, in the community, and ask them, have you forgotten to be a child? Become a child again. Have you forgotten what it was like to be disregarded from conversations, from decision making? We don't need your opinion, your idea right now. Just wait. When you ask adults what it was like the first time that they were asked for their opinion, and their opinion was respected, a light goes off, and the atmosphere changes because it becomes personal.
We would hardly wait until somebody was in middle school or high school to teach them how to read, to teach them manners, to teach them music, to teach them sports. You know, all these great activities start, you know, as soon as you're old enough to walk, if not before. Yes?
So I'm lucky enough to get to work with 5th graders through 24-year-olds. And so some of the most excited youth that I work with are the 5th graders. Like, there's so much energy that they always bring. But I've grown up doing service learning myself. Now I'm 26. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed as I've started doing this work is a lot of teachers that I meet, a lot of adults that I meet that are doing service learning have never done service learning. And so I would say, just like, if you were to bring in the ACK and if you guys were to lead a project with the 5th graders and then invite the adults, yeah, I suppose you can be a part of it, you know, teachers. The adults would see the excitement. They would get to experience that excitement, and actually experiencing something, getting them hands-on would make a huge impact. And invite the principal, invite all those people, the board members and that sort of pieces of the school, the community to see it, and they'll actually see how, you know, this whole thing really does pull together the community as well.
Great. Yes?
You may think this sounds silly, but I'm also a middle school teacher, and how about a lesson plan for teachers? How about developing a lesson plan for teachers to show them how easy it is to incorporate a service learning project into their already huge compacted curriculum that we are all obligated to teach because of our government. I think that would be a really cool thing if the youth would say, hey, this is really simple to do. Here's a lesson plan. Why don't you try it?
Schoolers in Kentucky through our programs, through youth and government, and when they have that chance to write legislation and own the issues, that matters a lot to them. But what I would say to you guys is, like everybody said, you all can engage them better than us, but whenever you're in that opportunity, and really in any situation, you don't need to genuflect to adults. You all have proven yourselves to be our peers and our colleagues through your work. So you need to show that you have expertise in this area and not hang back whenever somebody's like, well, here are the challenges. You've already overcome so many challenges that that's not a valid argument.
I love this. This is great. Okay, I'm afraid this is going to be the last comment right here. The pressure's on.
Okay, so FCCLA is a nationwide organization with 190,000 students based on family and consumer sciences. If you're looking for kids to do projects with children, contact your FACS teacher at your local high school. Beg them, encourage them, bully them into, I didn't say that word, having an FCCLA program. All of our projects are student-led, and many of them, because family is our central focus, are also with children. There's some really, really great projects out there. So find your family and consumer science teacher and support them.
And there is great research out there that shows that the majority of kids in this country who are involved in service and service learning belong to one of these great youth development organizations. You know, YMCA's, Boys and Girls Clubs, FCCLA, Campfire, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Clubs. I mean, there's just a plethora of them in almost every community. And we call it our Big Ten strategy, and you're going to be hearing more about us connecting with those organizations and really strengthening their capacity to do service. Ladies and gentlemen, we could have gone on all day with this. Will you give a huge hand to our youth panels? This is really extraordinary. Extraordinary group of young people. You guys rock. And you know, usually when you've got young people up here like this, they say, aren't they amazing? They are, but there are millions of others like them out there. They are not alone. This is just a small cross-section of millions of kids in this country and around the world who are making change now. And I think that's the really good news. The other good news is that the Lady Liberty shuttle leaves from the front of the hotel every 30 minutes. For $10, it's a 15 or 20-minute ride to the airport, so that will be leaving out front. The other good news is you have pink evaluation forms. We want to make this YSI even better next year, and if you can give us your advice, what did you love about it? What did you hate about it? What do we absolutely have to do again next year? What would you love to see us do next year that's different? You know, the wisdom is in the room. All of us are smarter than some of us. You guys are the really important voices. And every year, anything that you like here, that you've seen at this, it's probably been suggested by one of you. So that's the really, the cool news. So we're going to close with a really exciting announcement by Mayor Anise Parker of Houston, and who I've met, and is just the coolest. And you guys will get to meet her next year. So, Mike? I hope this isn't on wireless.
Hello, I'm Anise Parker, Mayor of Houston, and a proud supporter of Youth Service America. On behalf of the City of Houston, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for being present this week for the Youth Service Institute in Philadelphia. Everyone in attendance is in some way a catalyst for volunteerism and a pioneer of civic engagement in our communities. Service will always be instrumental in building sustainable communities and helping citizens lead productive lives. By being present here this week, you've demonstrated your commitment to educating youth on how they can make a difference in their own community. In my home city of Houston, we've come to embrace volunteerism as a way of life. Through the Volunteer Initiatives Program Office at the City of Houston, or VIP, we've been at the forefront of civic engagement in the Houston area for more than 5 years. A little over a year ago, the VIP office became the proud recipient of a Cities of Service grant. This opportunity enabled me to appoint the first ever Chief Service Officer for the City of Houston, and it has increased the scope and breadth of service in our city. Additionally, last March, we launched our new Volunteer Initiatives website, Houston Service, which addresses high-impact volunteerism in our community. None of our current successes in volunteerism would be possible without a strong coalition of community partners, from local nonprofits to national foundations, faith-based groups, institutions of higher learning, and corporate philanthropy. We've come together to make service our mission in Houston. It's only by working together that we have increased the capacity to build strong foundations and lengthen our outreach into the community. It's my hope that with these tools, Houston will become a beacon for volunteerism and civic engagement across the country. However, the only way to ensure that recent successes become replicated in the future is to instill the values of volunteerism among our youth. In tough economic times, volunteerism can become a positive outlet and a source of pride for young people. It's not only a way to serve a cause, but a way to bring people together to share ideas and passion while helping them feel they're contributing to society. With these sentiments, Houston is honored to be designated as the next city for the annual Youth Service Institute in October of 2012. With many different organizations participating, we plan on exploring the best way to get youth involved in service and illustrate the importance of volunteerism to our global society. I hope you enjoyed the Youth Service Institute in Philadelphia, and we look forward to hosting you all next year in Houston.
Yes, you will. And we're really, really thrilled to be going to Houston next year, and particularly with such a great mayor and her chief service officer was here with us this week. I think Cameron's gone back, but it was great to have him here, and of course he'll be working with us over the next year. So as sad as it is for me to say, we're done. This has been absolutely a tremendous experience, and it's been such a privilege to put this institute on. I can say that on behalf of my colleagues at YSA. You are a remarkable group of people. We are extraordinarily privileged to be partners with you. Safe travels home, and we'll see you next year. Thanks.